Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Going Medieval Core Survival Guide. I will be going over a lot of things in this video. Tech progression in libraries, agriculture, food supplies. We'll talk about cold storage techniques, foliage, room bonuses, and the new and improved settler roles. There are a ton of them now. I will also be talking about defense and strategy tactics. This is on the maximum difficulty. And the biggest secret in this game to success, animal taming. So when you start the game, you start with absolutely nothing, and you'll want to first get into technology. Now, to access the research tool, you have to build first a basic research table. Now, this is really important to note. Researching technology does not consume books. It sets a permanent storage requirement. So say a tech cost you, in this instance here for furniture, 15 books. Over here, if you had produce 15 books, it will say you have 0 books available, but you will have those 15 books permanently in storage, actually. So this is great. That's good. That you don't have to sit there and say, I need 1,000 books. So you can set a small quota of whatever you're looking for so that you don't go crazy there. What this means is that there is a tech debt if you sell books. So if a merchant comes and you sell 100, 200, you're like, wow, I have 400 books. Well, that's all of your knowledge. So you have to make up those 400 books to get back to 0 and then make more books. So if you sell all your books, it can take you quite a bit of time to get to a point where you can research further technology. You can see right here we have allocation. So this is what you want to look at. So I have 73 available and allocated 120. I have 0 available, but I have 680 books. I am in a tech deficit right now because I sold some books to buy some stuff. Books are really, really valuable trade items, and so it's actually not a bad thing to do if you have a lot of researchers. So eventually, though, these books will become a problem. Where do you store them? So over here on the ground, you can see I can store about 21 or 25. Now these library things here, they can only store sets of 4, but look how many are in there, right? There's 100 books. So that's another thing. As you progress, you'll come down into furniture, your wall shelves, and you look at bookshelves and you're like, store them out 4 books? It only stores 4 books? No, it stores 100 books, okay? But you'll eventually have shelves of that stuff. And that is in furniture, one of the first things you can get later on. But I'm going to go into technology and how I do everything in just a little bit. Now we're going to talk about agriculture, early game survival. So in this game, now there are 4 different bushes. So there's the red currant shrub, the bramble bush, the blackthorn bush, and the gooseberry bush. Now, what makes this the superior food item is the fact that the fruit itself is also the seed. Second, they don't get blight. And third, they don't die in the winter. So you don't have to replant them. You plant them once, and then all you have to do is continue to harvest them. Now, sometimes when you harvest them, one of them will die, and you'll have to replant, but it's not that common. This means that one plant, because you can get up to like 11 to 12, one plant can allow you to expand to 12 more fields. So you could take 2 or 3 bushes and go to 20, 30 bushes really early in the game. I always go to the bushes to get my early game food. So all you do is come out into the real world here with your harvest tool, find these bushes. So right here you can see we have blackthorn, got bramble, you got tall grass. This will give you the hay you need to feed your animals. Animals, all of them eat hay. And then there's wild herbs. Always harvest wild herbs. You'll get 2 herb seeds and 6 herbs. Herbs are used for lavish meals, second tier food, and they're also used as medicine. One of the most important, maybe overlooked things in the game. Barley is great for creating alcohol and also for getting hay. And we'll go into a little bit about planting and all that in a minute. But you can quickly gather these and set up huge food banks. Now, the second best food item in the game, and basically the first best food item in the game, late game, are fruit and walnut trees. So currently they have damson, a walnut tree, a quince tree for us Manor Lords lovers, I guess, and the tried and the true apple tree. Now you can only purchase these from merchants. Every time a merchant comes in, go in and trade. These are amazing. Essentially, these grow, and all stages, no matter what happens, they will yield an apple sapling. You can cut it down and move it infinitely, and you can get a lot. You'll get wood, you'll get stick, you'll get the sapling, and you'll get to regrow at the end of its life. And their life is really long. And you also get a crap ton of apples. I have 579 beets. We'll go into that in a bit here. But you can see I have 344 quints. I have 123 apples and 96 walnuts. So I have hundreds of foods just from a handful of trees, which is pretty crazy. I got some more trees over here. Oh, the trees are honestly the bomb. You also don't get blight on trees, and blight can take out an entire harvest. Now, the way that you work with the trees, so say I buy one apple sapling, I just have one apple sapling. So apples are a little unique in that you can't get more of them like you do other plants. You have to give them space. So an apple tree, a damson tree, a walnut tree, any tree, you'll have to find an area that it can grow in. Sorry, I'm in the mountains, so it's kind of hard to find spots. So just do this, right? So here's 2 spots it can grow in. So say I planted one apple tree here. Every day, there is a very small percent chance that a cell next to it that has the proper fertility will yield another tree. So I plant one tree here. In a couple years, it's 4 trees. At that point, I can cut them down, get 4 saplings, and then plant them in a row like this. So that's how you can turn one tree into 5, into 6. That's another cool thing about trees is they replicate by proximity. Now all the other plants can't do that. So that's a power of the tree. I basically I planted like a couple apple trees here, a couple quince over here, a couple walnut here, and then I come back 3 to 4 years later. So see, there's still quince and apple trees out here that I did not cut down when I moved everything inside. And so they will just start spreading organically that way. And then we're going to talk about standard crops, the high risk. So let's just get to the nitty gritty. There's a thing called blight in the game, all right? And blight you pretty much have to cut it or it'll spread and kill everything. Now, one really great thing is they have sowing period in here. So this resolved an issue where sometimes they would put seeds out before winter and then everything would die. So all of these plants will die. Now you have different harvesting phase. Some plants don't have this. So for instance, we go to ripe. We get 15 beets and we get 1 beet seed. Under that theory, I should never need seed again. But it usually doesn't work that way. You have blight. You have random events. Sometimes they fail on a harvest because you have someone come in and mess it all up. So you lose the seed. You could try flowering. This gives you beets and seed at 5 a pop. Or you can do go to seed. This gives you 3 beets, 10 seeds. The best way to do this is to alternate between ripe and going to seed. So what I do is called Operation Overkill. For everything that I am growing, so flax just goes to ripe. You get 5 seeds and 11 linen. Flax you don't have to worry about. And flax you need quite a bit of because that's how you get cloth, okay? Grow a lot of flax. Just FYI. Grow a lot of flax. And grow a lot of herbs for food and medicine. All right, sorry. So what I do is I do 4 plots. I do what I call a seed garden. So I have one for cabbage, I have one for beets, and I have one for carrots. And that's all I do. I never have to worry about seeds. So these are yielding 40 seeds per harvest. And some of them are, certain days. And I do that in conjunction to their better parts. So if I'm doing 40 here, I can do up to, in my opinion, 20. I like to err on the side of caution. I've lost all of my crops. You can push the limits if you want. This is just my suggestion to you, is to always have twice the amount of seeds as you think you need. Because when a merchant comes, if God forbid you have 300 seeds or it goes crazy, it doesn't ever, you can just sell excess seeds. But what you can't do is pull seeds out of your rear end, okay? If you don't have the seeds, you don't have the seeds. When you get into the late game cooking, so over here, you can see for a lavish meal, I need 20 primary cooking ingredients. Now that can be berries, and it can also be, mushrooms and beets. So you can use berries, but the higher tier meals are going to start needing some of those things. You can even use, so you have something called secondary cooking ingredients too, which is walnuts, cheese, smoked fish. It's really crazy what you can do in this game. So that's why people do it. But to be honest, if you wanted to cheese the game, you could literally grow nothing but berries and trees and never touch beets, never touch carriage, never touch carrots, never touch cabbage. You don't have to. Another factor that you can talk about is honey production. So in research, you'll get into beekeeping at some point. So this will yield wax. Wax is used for these special candles that look really cool. And they also create honey. Honey can be converted in a brewer into mead, okay? So you can make an alcohol from it. So you can say I'm getting 161% production because it's near 147 plants that the bees can use. Now what are you going to do with all this food? That's where cold storage comes into play. So in your research tab, you're going to want to get into some of these technologies as you progress. One of them is ice making. So there's agriculture, preserving food, ice making. Now, when I play, the techs I go into, I'll talk about at the end of the video because it's part food, part defense, and I'll go over how I order my operations. But eventually, you'll get into cooking and ice making. And ice making can only occur in winter. So you'll create your little guy, come over here, say set until you have XYZ. And then you'll come down here and you'll make sure that they put ice in certain rooms. It's best to have one giant food storage room for this reason. You don't need that many ice blocks anymore to be reasonable. So you can freeze your food. I think that that's kind of crazy. Like, you don't need to do it. So you can see the pile decomposes in never. One, it's winter and the ice is down there. In the summertime, though, this goes to typically about 15 years. I should be eating all my food in 15 years. So, like, 3 or 4 ice can usually cool a pretty decent sized room, maybe 5 or 6 for a room of this size. Ice is a manufactured material. If you're trying to find it, it's probably one of the best clues I can give you is an ice block down here. So this will help cool everything. Pretty straightforward. Now, another thing you might notice down here is room bonuses, right? So I've created a workshop. So all the things you need to create a room are listed right here. And if you facilitate all those requirements, you will get a massive bonus. So being inside is a bonus, but being in its own room is also a bonus. So we're getting 110 and 120 accumulating in 132 production speeds. We're getting a 30, that's great. We're getting a big boost. Same with the library, same with everything else. It's really that simple. Now for roles, for instance, you can, one of the items you get later in the game is like the study group. So with the librarian and a required textbook, I can mass teach people a bunch of skills. So you can buy books from merchants, like how to do tailoring, stuff like that. You can give them higher tailoring skills. So it's really cool. Now, in order to give someone a position like that, they have to have their own room. They have to have an individual chamber in order to have a role. So, for instance, history teacher is actually the prison warden because he had the highest speech skills and social interactions in our prison. We were converting prisoners in this video, this massive build that I did. But I had to give him his own room and then give him the prison warden role. For the librarian, you do librarian. For sergeant in arms, this one's pretty cool. He'll increase the XP gain. There is a new thing in the game that came out not too long ago called combat training equipment. So you can increase their archery and their melee skills. And there's something called the sergeant's podium. With the sergeant podium, him yelling at them, I guess it encourages them to learn faster. So there are all these little things you can do. There's religious leaders to help you convert and, go between the two religions. There's Oak Brethren and there's like the Jesus people. But just look into it. It's actually pretty self-explanatory. I just wanted to make you aware of it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about defenses. So you're going to go into architecture and agriculture. You're going to get your food. You're going to get your bushes up. Then you're going to go into wooden weaponry and fletching 2. This will allow you to make longbows. Second step is to get research 2. Start getting the tier 2 research. That is going to look like this guy down here. And so, as you can see, this is a second set of books. This is the handbook. You need to make about 20. And with that, you're going to go straight into Crossbows 1. Now, you'll also need to get up from the wooden weaponry skill you learned, the woodwork bench, because this will allow you to make wooden mechanical components. With wooden mechanical components, you're just going to be using wood to create these. They're 20 a pop. Very, very easy. And from there, you can now make a crossbow, which is 35 wood and 3 wooden mechanical components. Now, this thing is godly. It's so easy to get into the crossbow. It's a complete necessity when playing on the highest difficulties. So let's just take a gander at this beaut. The tier 1 crossbow, they get even better than this. 100% precision, 25 meter range, 20% melee cover amount, high armor penetration, attack bonus when used from higher ground. We're going to go into this too. So from up here, it basically has the range. We pause the game. If we compare it to the longbow has 18 meter range, 94% precision, It shoots much faster. High armor penetration, attack bonus when used from higher ground. I can tell you from experience, this thing outproduces. Like it says 206 DPS, this thing owns. It absolutely owns. It hits every single time. And the range, as you can see, from 18 to 25 meters. So when you have 6 dudes like this who are volley firing, they are just annihilating. This is my personal preference. This is the way that I go. I get everybody with crossbows ASAP. Now, while you're doing this, you also want to be incorporating a couple of strategies to kind of play around with the AI. And one is pathfinding. So there are going to be little gateways and little ramps and terraforming up. You want to section all that off. You want it to be smooth. So like this wooden staircase, I would delete this. We don't need that anymore. I was using it at one point. Anything that can get up into your area, you want to delete. The next is, so they can actually now use ladders, and they can also start a map like this with a siege platform like this. But what they can't do is 2 of them. They're smart enough to do 1 so far. I've never seen them do 2. So basically what I call this is the rule of 2. Is if you have 2 things they have to get through, they won't go that way. They won't use the new pathfinding AI. So I've dug 2 trenches around here. Then on this side, it's flat. And then I also created a high perimeter fencing like this, just using basic limestone, which I have tens of thousands of on this map. This makes it so that they cannot get up. And if they do have a ladder, so say they ladder over here, well, they got to get over this. And then they got to get over this. So from any direction, they have to have multiple ladders to get over my main walls. This allows us to use verticality and killbox zones. So right here, I have a main keep, and I'm using something really important that I'm going to get into that you can shoot through the flooring here, and I'll explain how that works. So I'm using gates. This is defensive later on. You can use just basic doors in the beginning. So as the enemy approach, they will get shot up by my crossbows. They will try to break through the gate. Once they break through the gate, then they have to get into the traps. Now I'm going to put more traps down here. And the early game stick traps are just wooden mechanical parts, which can be made in a wood bench, and sticks. They're super, super cheap. You should spam the heck out of these things. They're beautiful. Now they bust through this door, and as they're busting through this door, then I can place them on either side. Now I didn't put a Merlin here because you can't shoot down one tile in front of a Merlin. It's a little weird and finicky, so you want to make sure that it's thin. So they're getting shot down. If they get in here, there's a staircase here, but there's another door here. So I can stand them on these little areas. You can actually stand them back a bit too, and they will shoot down into this area. So those are immense. Second, it is sometimes wise to have a central defensive location. I won't get into this too much. You can watch my super cool 4-hour video compacting 18 hours of gameplay into a wonderful experience. But I tend to overkill it, and I have multiple retreat points, multiple block points. I put this here so they can't run along here. I created a lot of pathing, so if only way into this area is through this door, right where I have a nice little room of death looking into this zone. But that's really it. Use channeling. I like to do stuff like this, just using limestone, make it a little hard for them to get in. Also, another thing I'm doing that you may not think is, another thing I'm doing that may not be apparent is look at the range on the crossbow, right? One of the largest in the game. So the longbow back here really can't shoot up, and I can shoot in. So what I'm doing is making sure that no one is coming over here on the side shooting in. I'm just like, I'm really funneling them. So I'm pushing their range out using these walls. I'm concentrating them. Because what you can do is, you say you do something like this. Well, if they were able to get in through here, their ranged units could come over here and start shooting at me from over there. So by pushing them out this way, I'm making it so that they only have one direction they can come from. And that really helps me control the battlefield. And now, last but not least, the most important thing in the game. I start every game with a customized character meant for animal taming. So the best skill is called Witchy. It increases their tame chance by 10% and training chance by 10%. Now you start with 2 goats. What you'll do is go to Overview, Domestic, and you'll click up here. It says Train. You'll start training the goats, okay? When they're fully trained, they can haul for you. So donkeys are the best, actually. But the goats will go run around. I have 6 animals that are coming and hauling stone. This is huge. Hauling things will completely break the experience. This build would have taken 3 times, maybe 4 times as long without those 6 goats. I am not kidding you, simply because all my guys would have to stop everything they're doing and go out and haul. This is one of the most powerful things in the game, is training animals to haul for you. They can fight for you too. I don't use them for that because, they tend to die. But hauling is a great use for these things. They also breed, and 2 animals that are trained that breed yield trained animals. Okay, so you breed a pair of animals and they will continuously give you offspring that are already trained. It's a pain in the butt in the beginning. It takes like 20 attempts, or it takes like 10 attempts, like typically. And if they're not very good, on a failure, you lose a percentage. So again, this is why you do not want to fail. You want to have a specialized person. So get someone with like 20 taming and witchy, and you'll be able to tame something maybe in a couple of seasons. And then you're going to have this awesome person. You're going to have this awesome animal hauling for you and reducing the burden of everybody. It's the most powerful thing in the game. I'm telling you, without it, you will hate your life. And once you start using it, you'll be like, wow, I wish I would have done this before. Anyway, if you want to see the incredible story of this build and you want a lot more details on starting strategy, I have a 4-hour video on this build on the hardest difficulty, going over all my survival tips. You don't have to watch the whole 4 hours, okay? Just watch like 15, 20 minutes of it, and you'll get even more real life examples of how to incorporate these ideas. As always, thank you guys for watching. Have a good rest of your night.